I'm going to ask you a question about. I have Googled this question because I it's just not my field. And what I Googled was other artists, other singers who write about their spirituality. And it came up with, the first page was 50% of people I've never heard of, so I haven't written them down. But it did bring me up Lauryn Hill, Enya, and Leonard Cohen. They all discover and explore their own spirituality in their songs. And I don't even know whether you've heard of them or anything like that, but how can you relate to their music or them?
Okay. I'm glad you put Enya in there. I've actually got one of her albums. I do like her music. It's very ethereal. It's very spiritual in its mood. But this is an interesting comparison between EL-Lea-Eye-Em and Enya. Is that, and I don't think this has come up in previous interviews. But EL-Lea-Eye-Em is a studio. Call it a band, if you like, musical entity. We don't go out and play gigs, and we probably never will. And Enya's the same. She's never ever performed live anywhere, and yet she sold tens of millions of records. But I do know her music. Leonard Cohen, yes, I do know. I always regarded Leonard Cohen more as a poet who sang his poetry. I didn't, to be honest with you, I didn't find his voice particularly, shall we say, attractive. It wasn't my cup of tea, but I do appreciate the work that he did, and I think his words were very enlightening, shall we say. The other one you mentioned,
Lauryn Hill.
I don't know that
okay,
artist.
That's fine.
Yeah, but I remember back in the early 70s when Leonard Cohen was quite popular. I think it was him and Bob Dylan were, I think, regarded in a fairly similar light. But I remember I had a girlfriend at the time who was really into Leonard Cohen, and so it was as a result of my relationship with her that I got to hear some of his music, but I wasn't particularly attracted to it, I have to say. But I think his poetry was good.
So I don't really know anything about Leonard Cohen, so what was his poetry about?
Crock, it's so long, Sophie, since I'm probably going back 50 years now since I heard anything by him.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember, to be honest. All I remember was thinking, well, yeah, he's not really a singer. He's more of a poet, but he's trying to sing his poetry.
Okay.
I think I could have been accused of that as well, because there was one song that we haven't actually released and probably never will. We've used part of the song on one of the songs on the album, the chorus from that particular song, which was an oration. And when I did it, I ended up trying to sing it, and it sounded a bit like Leonard Cohen, but with obviously with my voice. So.
Obviously.
So it's interesting you mentioned both of those, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's because I like Enya, and I'm sure I've got a CD of hers, and she's had some a couple of absolutely iconic tracks that have probably been on soundtracks, etc. And we've talked about this before, she's a very good example of I like her music, I'll sing her music, but I have absolutely no idea what it's about.
It's a very good point. I don't know whether she does it intentionally. You can't make out the words, can you, really?
No, not always, the way she sings.
I think her style, she's using her voice as an instrument, not necessarily to convey words, but to convey music and words. Which is why her sound is so unique.
Yeah,
and so recognisable.
There's definitely a feeling behind her voice, isn't there? There's that sort of...
It's etheric.
Yeah.
It's otherworldly.
Yes, very calming, very sort of godlike and sort of, godly, ghosty,
angelic,
sort of angelic-like. Yeah, definitely.
Angelic,
yeah.
Yeah, it's very pleasant to listen to.
Yeah, she is, yeah. But obviously you write a lot of spirituality, don't you? And we've talked about bands that you linked to many years ago, Black Sabbath.
No, not Black Sabbath.
No, it wasn't Black Sabbath. Deep Purple.
Deep Purple.
Yeah. So.
And folk. Well, there's lots of bands.
Yeah, there were. So do you still go back to them and see whether you get any inspiration from them?
No.
No, not at all. Because you have your own.
I have my own inspiration. Honestly, if I spent every day concentrating on writing songs and the tunes that go with them, I couldn't stop. There's such a vast amount of things that are coming through that I just couldn't stop.
So
I remember. I'll give you an example. I think this was it was a number of years ago, quite recently, within the last 5 years. I decided to write songs for children, young children, sort of 4 to 7 year olds, about animals. And the idea of it, just, I don't know where it came from, but I think the first one was about a bumblebee, which was more of an adult song. It was a conservation song about, we need to look after the bees, because if all the bees die within 3 years, we're all dead, That's how important they are. So that was about that. But then I started to think, well, what about all the other animals? So I started to write these songs for animals. Very funny. A lot of them are very funny and amusing for young children. But also the songs have a lesson. There's always a lesson in there somewhere. Within the space of 2 weeks, I wrote 13 songs. Just one after the other.
All for children.
All for children.
With
now it's something that Joe and I really want to do. I know he's keen that we do it, and we will get around to doing it.
So what made you go down that road with children and animals?
Well, I love kids. I'm one myself. it's the big kid in me, I suppose. But
is that your answer?
Well, I wanted. I don't know. I just had so much fun doing it.
Okay.
It was. You asked me on a previous session about what I do to relax, comedy, and these songs are funny. They're very funny, lyrically funny, humour that will hopefully appeal to 4 to 7 year olds. But also they'll get something out of it. They'll get. So if we talk about hippopotamuses, for example, we'll learn something about hippopotamuses. Or we talk about snakes or
so where are those songs now? In your archives, waiting.
The tunes are in my head and the lyrics are in a file, but we haven't actually put it down yet. So
that's taking your songwriting in a completely different direction.
yeah, it is. It has, yeah.
Won't people be confused by that?
Well, it's not going to happen. You know, the first album has a very specific purpose, and it's for adults, you know, rather than children. But children grow up, don't they?
Okay.
And become adults. So any seeds that you can plant that are positive and helpful to their spiritual evolution has got to be a good thing, I would have thought.
So it's aimed at adults then, rather than children, these songs?
Children's songs are aimed at children.
Okay.
But we're trying to plant some good seeds.
Because those children one day will be adults.
Exactly, yeah.
So, whereas Mills and Boon has only ever wrote about love and romance, she's not exactly going to start writing about war and peace. You can see how, I'm trying to say that the contrast to what you write about now isn't really about animals and children. But you're aiming for the children when they are adults, I guess.
Children become adults.
Yeah.
So if you plant the right seeds, hopefully they will grow into a beautiful plant or a beautiful tree.
Okay. Well, I'll be interested in reading those lyrics one day when you can dig them out of your book.
Well, yeah. I'll give you a private preview.
I expect a private preview with tea and biscuits. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for exploring a bit more about your songwriting. No doubt we'll touch on it again.
Okay.
Thank you.